I immediately just started and I knew if I don't know something, I'll ask my brokerage and I'll get it figured out. So I'd say just anyone getting in, hit the ground running. Don't be scared to talk to strangers.
You're listening to the Building Stronger Agents podcast, where we interview the top solo agents, team leaders, and brokers across the country to see what makes them thrive in today's market and beyond. Welcome back, everyone, to the Building Stronger Agents podcast. Today, we've got a special guest. He's 19 years old. He graduated from high school last year in 2022 and got licensed in July, and he's already sold 8 houses and he's got 7 pending. And today we're going to talk to him. His name is Brendan Lammlein. Is that correct, Brendan?
Yeah, Lammlein.
Brendan Lammlein. And we're going to talk to him today about how the heck he got in this business, why he wanted to do it, and what his plans are for the future. And without further ado, Brendan, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me on. I'm
You're
excited.
welcome.
This is great.
So let's get right into it. So this time last year, you were finishing up your last semester of high school.
Correct, yeah.
Usually, what people are thinking about then is either going to college or drinking or having a good time. I mean, what snapped in your head to make you decide to start a career so soon?
I've always wanted to. I mean, I even in high school, like obviously had a little bit of fun here and there partying, but it never really intrigued me. I never actually liked it. And I don't know, I was always into like filming, customizing shoes for people. I had an LLC with that, and like I just that just wasn't for me. The whole party scene and everything, I didn't care about at all. I wanted to, I don't know, I've always wanted to get into things young. That way I can set myself up early in life. That just
Wow.
appeals to me more.
Yeah, that's a tonic that most of us didn't take. And for those of you who don't know, one of the reasons I reached out to Brendan, and he and I know each other, is because I got into the business when I was 19 years old, and I've stuck with it for 35 years. So I reached out to him because he looked so young, and we've formed a friendship. But you're just doing great, man. So what made you think about real estate?
Do you want the long story, or
Well,
I mean
give us,
there's a lot.
we don't want to have anybody fall asleep, but give us the
Right,
condensed
right.
version about, you're in high school, and when did you take your classes? Did you take those actually in high school?
Yeah, I did. So fourth grade, I saw this girl at a gas station in a Maserati Gran Turismo. And she let me sit in it, and I said, "What do you do?" And she said, "Real estate." I had no clue what that meant. No clue what that meant at all. So I started researching it, but all I knew is like I love cars. I could get this car if I did real estate. But as I got older and I started researching more and understanding it, I just fell in love with houses. I was always on Zillow. I was always, when I got my license, I would drive around these like really rich neighborhoods and just look at houses constantly. I still do that. But yeah, just I've always had the passion for houses. It started with that girl though in fourth grade. And then my health teacher's wife in sixth grade was a realtor, and she came in for career day one day and explained everything. And I was like just in awe. And then so it's always been in my mind, but then high school I started taking it more seriously. I started really looking into the investments. Being an investor is the reason I actually got my license. I want to have a huge portfolio. I love being an agent though. I'm always going to do that. Um, but then yeah, I mean, I met my mentor on accident, like New Year's Day of 21, and he kind of took me under his wing and he showed me everything with the investment side of things. He's a realtor at Keller Williams as well. At the time it was D Hoff. But he showed me all the ins and outs that he knows with real estate. And that's when I knew at 17 years old, I was like, yeah, I have to get into real estate. Because then I was running around doing things hands on. I knew that I loved it. So it was nice because that was like a little trial for me. And then, yeah, I started real estate school probably halfway through the school year, a little halfway through senior year, finished. I had to wait to get my diploma. So I got my diploma, and then I took the exam twice and I failed both times. So after I failed the second time, I actually worked at a pizza shop as well on top of everything else. After I failed the second time, I literally quit my job because I had money saved and I was like, you know what? This will just force me to do it. And then I passed the third time and I just haven't looked back since.
That's fabulous, man. I mean, I've got kids. I've got a 23-year-old and a 26-year-old, and they're both doing great, fortunately. But when I see somebody your age who's doing so great, I mean, it just really makes me feel good. So, when you get your real estate license and you walk into your real estate office, What did you do right away to get traction? Like you go in there, imagine you got some help, but what did you do right out of the gate? Because you probably had no perspective or direction on what you should be
Not
doing.
at all. Not at all. I mean, there was a really good there's really good coaching in my brokerage, and that helped a lot because I didn't even know where to start really. And Greg, like he just always told me, that's my mentor's name. I don't know if I mentioned on here, but
Yeah.
he always told me just like create the opportunity, like don't wait for it, you know? So I mean, just all I talked about was real estate, and I was putting so much time into the doing the social media posts, and people were telling me do cold calls. So I did cold calls, go to open houses. I went to open houses. I started just doing everything that people told me to do, and it's been working so far. It's just most of my business those actually came from Sphere. So people, this, people that are you're close to, friends, family, friends of friends, family of friends. Actually really not been anybody immediately close to me. It's been like my friends, family members, or a couple kids that I graduated with actually too, which is pretty shocking because I just
Yeah.
graduated. They're buying houses already, but most most of it's been um, just Sphere. I've had a couple like little online leads. I'm currently working with a few people from Boomtown as well. And then I work a lot of FISBOs. Um, I just recently started doing FISBOs though. None of those have actually converted yet, but a lot of cold calling. I've gotten business from strangers as well, but it's mainly just Sphere.
Well, you're lucky because when I got in the business when I was 19, n- none of my friends' parents wanted to have anything to do
Right.
with sending me business. I mean,
Yeah, and
they
that
just
was
thought they were like, you're not ready to handle our biggest financial transaction.
right, right. And that was something I worried about too. Like my age was it was my biggest like flex, but biggest insecurity getting in
Oh,
because it was like,
sure.
are people going to take an 18-year-old seriously? I was 18 when I got licensed,
Right.
but I've only had a couple instances where people are like scared because of my age, like kind of I'm not going to trust you, or why would I put my an 18-year-old, and I've only had that a couple times. Most of the time people don't care at all. But I think the thing is, did you know you wanted to do real estate for a while, or I can't remember, did you just get into it
No,
because you met somebody, or
I was working at an auto parts store after I graduated from high school. All my friends went to college. I knew I'd probably go, but the summer after high school, um, I was I turned 18 in December, so I was going to be 19 the following December. So the summer after high school, I worked at an auto parts store, and some guy
right?
came into the office and to get spark plugs or something. I went out to the parking lot to look at his car or truck to see what spark plugs he needed. And we just started chatting. And he was like, what are you doing working in this auto parts store? I'm like, money. And he's like, well, you ought to get into real estate. And I didn't know exactly what that looked like, but kind of like you, I thought that, at 18 or 19 years old, you think, well, I was 18 then, you just think that real estate agents, they're ballers, right? Because they all drive fancy cars and
Everyone thinks that
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
was thinking, and I'm like, what makes you think I could do that? And he goes, well, we lived in Portage County, Ohio, which is where Kent State is. And he said, well, you could be, I got a guy in Akron who owns a Century 21 office, and you could be his Portage County man. So I went back in the auto parts store thinking, I've just won the lottery. They're going to make me the Portage
Right.
County man. And little did I know that that wasn't going to happen. But I did make an appointment to go meet with that broker. The guy wasn't overly impressed because I drove my mom's car. All the struggles that you might have had. I mean, I didn't because I didn't really understand. There was no way to research back then. We didn't have the internet.
Right, right. It's so convenient now. I'd been watching YouTube videos and articles and
Exactly.
everything about real estate I mean, since late middle school, early high school. I remember like sixth grade, I used to my friends and I would ride BMX bikes around, and we used to sit in the back of the school parking lot. Me and actually the friend's house I'm in now, Colin, me and him would sit there on our bikes, and we would always be like, dude, we got to get properties together. Like I remember in sixth grade, I was literally like, we have to get our real estate license. We have to get properties. And then my friend Joey too, he's actually in school now. He's waiting to test. But him and I met him, and I started talking his ear off freshman year about real estate, and then he like found so much interest in it because of me, and now I'm gonna end up recruiting him. But yeah, I mean, just me and all my friends have been talking about real estate for ever.
So it's so awesome. So going back to July when you got your license and you started, compared to now, what are some of the things that you found in those short 7 or 8 months that are different than you thought? Like the 2022 July Brendan versus the 2023 March Brendan. What are the things that are different than you thought they would be?
Well, I was running around with a few people who, like, in real estate, they didn't do a lot of nurturing or marketing or anything. So I had the common misconception. I knew I would have to work, but I had the misconception of like clients are going to come to me. I'm just
Uh,
going to tell people I'm in real estate and they're going to come to me. Um, which I quickly realized, like the first month, like the first week into it, I realized, okay, this isn't the case at all. So I changed that mindset real quick. But um, that's really about it. And then a lot of people say real estate, you have flexibility. I haven't found that yet. I mean, I'm working a ton right now at least, but it's because I'm producing. So, I'm not complaining because I love it, but I don't know, I thought clients would just fall into my lap. And I thought I might have a little bit more free time than I do right now. I know being new,
right,
I'm not getting all the referrals and everything yet, but
right,
that's
right.
really about it.
Yeah.
Besides
So
that, I mean, everything's about how I thought it would be.
well, the two big things are freedom and the way you get your business. And you found out quickly that they don't just fall in your lap. In fact, you were no different after you got your license than before. It's not like there's a magnet out there that suddenly starts attracting people to you to buy or sell a
Right.
house. And in fact, because
Right.
of the age, it was probably the other way. So, what are you now that you're what, 8 months in?
Yeah, like 7.5. Yeah, almost 8 months.
What are you doing differently now than you did at the beginning? Like if somebody was getting licensed now and you've got 7, 8 months under your belt and you've had 15 pending and closed, which is really, really good. I mean, you're already better than the national average. The average realtor only sells 6 to 7 homes a year, and you've got 15 pending and closed under your belt.
Seriously.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Really? Huh.
The average real
Wow.
estate
That's kind
agent
of
sells
neat.
about 6 homes a year.
Wow.
So you're already
That's
ahead of
it.
that and you're 8 months in. So you didn't know that at all, huh?
No, that's it. That's like I'm
Well, I don't
shooting
want
for
to make you
25 in
lower the
2023.
I don't want you to lower the bar. So
No, not at all. I'm
with the
like
rest of
I'm
the
just
year.
fast. I'm just like yeah, that's crazy. But no, so what I would tell someone new and, what's different now compared to then, I guess time blocking. I wasn't as good with managing time. So I'm like, that's big. That's very big for me now. It's like I have a lot to do in a day. So it's like, let's manage time is the most important thing. And don't be scared. Because when I first got in, I was like so scared to cold call. I was so scared to door knock. And now it's like, I mean, I do it constantly. It's so easy. So like, and the biggest thing I would say too, a lot of people when they first got licensed, which I can understand, it was more like they felt like they had to know everything first before they tried to get clients. I immediately just started and I knew if I don't know something, I'll ask my brokerage and I'll get it figured out. So I'd say just anyone getting in, hit the ground running. Don't be scared to talk to strangers because that's all it is. It's conversations about real estate. Talk to strangers, and get good at time management if you're not, because that's like you got to be disciplined. No one, I mean, you know this, nobody's telling me how many houses I have to sell. I'm not going to get fired if I don't sell houses. I don't have to be in the office every day. I don't have to come to meetings. I don't have to do anything. So
Nobody
it's all
cares.
my choice. It's all your choice. So this
Yeah.
this career will literally eat you alive. And people don't realize that. Everyone thinks like all realtors are successful. I mean, you just said it yourself. What was it? 6 houses a year?
The average realtor sells about 6. I sold 17 my first full year.
Which is great. That's good.
Well, it was
I
all
figured
right.
it'd be at least 10. I figured, well, for a first year. But yeah, it's just
87
you gotta hold yourself accountable. That's it.
87%. You're giving us a lot of gold here, especially for your age. When do you turn 19, by the way?
I turned 19. What is it? It's March now. December 20. My birthday's
Oh, that's
December
right,
25th. I
Christmas.
turned 19. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
My birthday's at December 29th. I think I told you that
It's
yesterday.
weird too. Like we both you started young and you were at a pizza shop as well. Like I know you said you were at the auto parts store, but
Yeah.
It's just,
And I
yeah,
worked at
it's
a
pretty
pizza
crazy.
shop, Palumbo's Pizza.
Right.
And then I got my first paycheck, which was $692. And I immediately walked into them and I'm like, I got to quit. And they were so happy for me because they knew that I
That's
was,
good.
oh,
That's
they knew that
good.
I wasn't pizza shop material. So and we didn't have cell phones back then. So there was a pay phone on a pole at the bottom of the parking lot from the pizza shop. So they would let me,
Right.
I'd have a pager and they would let me return pager calls uh, on my shift. So they were really
It's
supportive.
awesome.
But I got my first check, $692. It was from a $48,000 sale, 285 East Archwood in Akron. I've actually sold that house 4 times. But I quit my job at the pizza shop then. I'm like, that's my first, I got $692 to my name now. And I got to make this work. And that was in September.
Right.
I got licensed in April, got my first sale under my belt. It took me a lot longer than you. It closed
You
in
also had a
September.
job though.
I had it was part-time delivering
Right.
pizza. I was just delivering pizza at nights, but I was making like $300 a week back then, which was plenty for me because I was
Good.
living at home with my
Yeah.
mom and my dad. But anyway, yeah, I quit my job and I was like, that I can't keep. I felt like you said, I thought if I don't quit my job, I'm going to just keep kind of dragging along. If I quit my job
Honestly,
going into the fall and winter, I'm going to have to hustle. So my goal at that point
exactly.
was to sell one house a month. That I'm like, okay, I got to do one in
Yep. Yep.
October, one in November, one in December. That was my goal. And then the following year, I sold 17.
That's good. Yeah, that's amazing. It's funny because I honestly think depending on the person, like take this very lightly for whoever's watching or listening. I think if you have that like career path that you're really want and you're finally getting into it, quitting your job if you're in the situation too wouldn't be a bad idea for depending on the person. I mean, for me, it was like I had like 3,000 saved up. I paid for real estate school myself in cash, and then I got in. I paid all the dues, the MLS dues, all my signs and everything. That was like almost 500. Like business cards, all
Right.
the marketing material. I ended up spending like 3 grand like this, and then I was like, okay, now we got it. Like, we have to go because I'm not getting. I was like, I already quit my job. I'm not getting another job. I refuse to do anything but real estate. Like, so it kind of lit that fire under me. When you're desperate, you just make it happen.
What does time blocking like for you?
Every day I start off with lead gen. So it's either the cold calling, and if I'm caught up on that, following up with current clients, and then social media. Social media's I kind of put it to the side though. It's like all of actually talking to people comes first, and then social media is after. I don't do it as much as I'd like to. Um, and
Well,
then after that, it's just well,
not to cut you off, but social media is good to build a brand and to build awareness, but nothing beats phone conversations or face-to-face
for
meetings.
face-to-face conversations. That's what you need. The social media only gets so far. And if you're only posting and not following up with people when you post, it doesn't really do as good.
No engagement.
So you
Yeah.
have to, right, right. But I mean, yeah, and then after that, it's just whatever else I have time blocked in my day with actually servicing clients. Like get this turned into the title company and show this house and do. So I mean, it's mainly just like my mornings that are really time blocked for
Lead
all of
gen.
the lead gen. Yeah. And then if there's days where I have something like an important class that I want to go to or a meeting or something in the morning, then I just do it in the after. I'll time block it for the afternoon or something. Or if I don't have time that day, I'll just do extra the next day.
As a young guy,
But
how do you stop from keeping your days being taken up by staring at your phone and watching reels and all of that?
it can get hard. I just don't open the apps. And if I do, it's to post. Like I hardly like I don't really check my Facebook messages or like DMs as much as I should. There's nothing important in there anyways. If I see a notification from somebody, I that's something important, I respond right away. But there has been times where I've got on Instagram and I'll be on the reels and it's just all like car videos and I'm just like mindlessly scrolling for 30 minutes. I'm like, what am I doing? I think
Right.
we all do that. But I mean, I don't know. I just don't open the app. If you don't open the app, it won't happen.
Yeah, it's like I asked my dad how I said, Dad, how did you quit smoking after 38 years? He said, I stopped buying cigarettes.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah,
you just don't open the app and you just don't
it's
consume stuff. You just want to be a poster.
Right. Yeah, you're either a consumer or a provider. You got
Right.
to be one of the two.
So
It's hard to do both.
going into your second 6 months, since that's what we're dealing with, you don't have a full year under your belt. What are you doing right now? Now that you've got this experience, you know how to write a contract, you know how to list a house. Um, what are you doing right now? What do you like to get into the spring and get yourself a really strong next few months? What are you doing specifically?
A lot of the people that reach out to me like winter, well, that I reach out to in the winter, and they're like, "Hey, we're waiting until spring." I've been continuing to follow up with them. All the people that sign into my website, I follow up with them, just nurturing my pipeline. Um, Still calling the FISBOs, uh,
Let me
and then
stop you
open
there.
houses.
FISBOs, what's your method for calling for sale by owner?
So the first time I call them is just, hey, the reason for my call is twofold. Just curious, I have buyers in your price range. If I were to bring you a buyer, would you be willing to co-op with a real estate agent? Yes, great. Okay, well, studies also show if for sale by owners fail to sell the house on their own, they usually list with an agent. About how long until you consider possibly listing with an agent? And then they tell me you don't get them on the first call ever. So, then they tell me either leave me alone or maybe a few more weeks. We want to give it a month. We're giving it until next week, and then depending on the time frame that they give me, I'll either check up with them once every week, every other week, or like every few days if it's pretty soon. So then I'll just follow up, and when I do, it's how's everything going with the house? Have you had any traction yet? And I always try and give them like little bits of advice here and there just so they know like I'm coming from a helping point. And then yeah, it hits a point where, hey, you told me a couple weeks ago that today would be your last day you're going to try on your own. Are we able to, meet up? And then I would go to the listing appointment. But I haven't gotten that far yet because I'm still pretty new with FISBOs.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
So on the first meeting, when you talk to them and you ask them a couple of questions, why don't you try to schedule an appointment? Like after you say, hey, if I had a buyer that paid a price and terms acceptable to you, would you be open to looking at an offer from me? And they say, yeah, say, that's great. Do you mind if I schedule a time to pop over and take a quick run through the house? That way I can speak intelligently about it when I run into a buyer.
Huh. Yeah, because then because FISBOs, they're getting called by everyone. So
Right.
if we
But if
get
you're
that
not, say,
face-to-face
listen,
interaction,
I'm not calling to list the house. There's a lack of inventory right now. And I'm trying to create a list of off-market properties so that when we have buyers, I can try to encourage them to look at these off-market properties as well. As long as I could bring you an offer with price and terms acceptable to you, meaning the net was acceptable, would you be willing to look at something like that? They usually say yes, and then say, hey, that's cool. Do you mind if I schedule a time to pop over, take a quick look at the house? That way I can speak intelligently about it once I run into a buyer. Plus, I'll take some
yeah,
notes. And then since you're so nice, I've got a checklist of common pitfalls that a lot of home sellers fall into, and I'll give you that list just for being nice to me.
right, right. Yeah, that's actually great. I like that a lot.
Because if they've met you face to face and you build a connection with them, you've got a much better chance of using that to springboard the relationship forward. If you're just calling them and checking in, it's harder to do that because they don't know you.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. The face-to-face connections is always really important. That's like the biggest thing.
So I would always try to get an appointment when I was dealing with for sale by owners. I got into calling for sale by owners at a very young age because I got really good at listing them, and it was
Hmm.
always that I'd get in the house, walk through the house, show them my 81 point. Now you found a buyer. What do you do now? And it basically went through every possible calamity that could possibly happen. And I would go over that list with them. But as I'm reading it to them, it's scaring them.
Right, right. Yeah. And especially too, if you're coming from an educational standpoint,
Right.
like they're gonna know, okay, he knows what he's doing. Like they're gonna
Yeah.
trust he or she on, they're gonna
Right.
trust you a lot more. So that's a big thing too, just educating. I like that. Yeah, I never even thought of that.
At your young age, are there any things that you do? I can tell you what I did, but what do you do to overcome the age? Like if it does come up, like what are you doing to put yourself in a position where people don't ask you about your age?
Luckily, I've sold what I've sold. So I always just let them know, look, just because I'm young, I've had experience doing this. And also, if there's ever a question that I don't know the answer to, I have a ton of different agents and people in my brokerage. The brokerage themselves will get the answer. I can get it to you. Like pretty
Right.
much, I mean, as a real estate agent, your job is to just protect from things going wrong. I mean, part of your job, right?
Right.
So I just let them know, regardless of my age, I'm still going to be able to back them up no
Right.
matter the situation.
Yeah.
Usually that's just, just touching up on those points, the fact that I've actually produced, even though I'm young, and the fact that there's people that I can get answers from if I don't know
Yeah.
the answer.
Absolutely. One thing, and obviously being able to reflect on your 15 sales that you've had is fabulous. One thing that I always did, I wanted to make sure I knew my numbers. So I would always know how many houses were for sale, what they were selling for, what they cost. That way, because if you sound informed, then they must figure they got it wrong. He can't be that young if he knows that much.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, yeah,
It's amazing how quickly they forget about your age when you know what you're talking about and you know details and you have like real knowledge, substantive knowledge, not just, sales speak, but actually
right,
knowing your local market and and how and those numbers. I mean, that's really
right.
important.
Yeah, very important. But yeah, luckily, like I said, the age thing hasn't really been an issue. It was only two instances when I was like fairly new in real estate. Um, was really about it. Besides that, it hasn't really been an issue.
That's because you're not focusing on that. You're focusing on success. So
Right.
if somebody does have a problem with that, you've already said it. You just move on to the next person. You're because you've got these big goals. Speaking of which, like what do you see? Like what do you see happening through the rest of this year? Obviously, you got into this market last year while interest rates were going up. So interest rates were going up.
Right.
You weren't here when the rates were 3.5%, where everything was flying off the shelves, although things are starting to again. Like, so you don't have the perspective as someone that got in 2020 where everything's moving so quickly and, 6, 10, 15 offers on every house. So you got in at a good time because as the market contracts, that's all you know. When I got in
Right.
1988, the market was in the toilet. Interest rates were 11%, 10.5 to 11%. So I didn't know any different. So I just knew I had to sell houses. So when the market eased up, it was just way easier for me.
Of course, of course. So my goal, I mean, I have a financial goal for what I want to make. I'm not going to say it
You
here,
don't have to say
but
that.
I want to at least help 25 parties, either families, investors, whatever it may be, buy or sell a home. So I want to do 25 in the calendar year of 2023. That's how many addresses I want to produce, um, people I want to help. And then again, it's just I still haven't really found like that one thing or the couple things that I'm like really strong at. It's just again continuing to target my sphere, continuing to do the cold call, nurture the people that are in my pipeline. I mean, right now in general, I have just my everybody that's in my database, it's a little over 200 people. So if I can,
Wow.
I mean, even if 10 of the 200 that are currently in there close before the end of this year, that'll help a ton. And I've had sales where it's just unexpected. Like I was with last night, I was with a few people and someone walked up to me because they heard me talking about real estate. They're like, "Hey, I've been thinking about getting a duplex and living in one half, and I got his email and phone number, and I just sent him over to my lender today, and they scheduled a conversation for 6:30 tomorrow, and now I'm sending him duplexes, and there's things
Wow.
that come
It
up
came
out
out
of
of
nowhere,
nowhere.
as yeah, yeah, and it actually happens pretty frequently. Like I got a guy who got under contract, an investor with two properties with me, just, I mean, out of the blue. I haven't even met him longer than a month ago. And now we're under contract and he's continuing to look at more. So it's just pretty nice because the people in my database on top of the things that are going to come up throughout the year, I'm pretty confident I can probably do 25 this year.
I think you're going to do more than 25. You've already got 7 pending.
I hope so.
And how
That'd
many
be
have you got
phenomenal if I
closed?
did. Before
Like
the seven
now,
that are
this year?
pending, and in 2023, three.
3
So that'll
plus the
be after
7.
all these would be 10
And you've still got the
by like
spring
mid-April.
market. You've still got the
Right.
spring market, the summer, the fall. Oh, dude, I think you'll sell at least 25. The thing that
Hope so. That'd be
my business
crazy.
coach always told me, I've had a business coach for about 15 years. And what he always said is, if the easiest way for you to get busy in this business is just put out good energy. If you're talking to people
Yes,
and
yes,
always talking about real estate, being positive about what's happening in your community, you're going to attract people to you. It's just the way that it
right.
happens. And I think that's why you're seeing success. Because one thing I've noticed about you, you're always positive. You're just working. You're not interested in anything else other than just making stuff happen.
Yeah, it's that's actually, yeah, I mean, I met with somebody, marketing person with a lending corporation, and they were like, "Hey, try and sprinkle in the real estate. Like all I post about in general is just real estate because I don't like do anything else. Like it's
Right.
real
Right.
estate. Like real estate and cars are like, but it's like mainly it's real estate is like all I really do. So it's hard to even like, yeah, I just naturally talk about it all the time.
Right.
I like it. I mean, when you're passionate about something, of course it's constantly on my mind. Like,
Yeah. And the reason you're so passionate is because you got checks coming in.
well, even I mean, even before that, I mean, luckily it's been, knock on wood, it stays this way. So there's going to be bumps in the road, but all in all, it's been fairly good since I've started. I've been able to get traction pretty fast.
Right.
Um, but but yeah, even before that, I mean, I've always known. I mean, since fourth grade, there were when I was young, there were things in between. Like I thought, oh, I want to do this or this, but real estate has always been there since like 10 years old. And as I've gotten older, it's just been more and more of an interest. And now that I'm actually in it, I'm more interested than ever. So it's
Well, I can see easily why you're having success. You're taking action. You're not waiting for people to help you. You're following up. You're protecting your time, and you're just going out every day and trying to have conversations with strangers. And that, unfortunately, it's not any sexier than that. That's about it. You're not
no,
waiting
that's
for
it.
you're not waiting to get things from leads. The one thing I can tell you, get a
Right.
business page. Make sure you start getting your clients to review you. Social proof is incredibly
That's what I've
important.
been. Google businesses. I need to
Yeah.
get more reviews on like Facebook and Realtor.com and
No,
stuff, but
go just
everyone, I always
focus on
send people my
Google.
Google business.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I just only started recently doing that about a month and a half ago because there was some weird difficulty. I couldn't get my business page approved. I had to start from scratch. But yeah, but I've been sending my link to everyone. So I've been getting reviews on there.
Now you just go back to your other clients and you just say, "Hey, I'm having a contest. Need to get some more reviews. I'll give you a $10, gas card if you can give me a review by Wednesday or whatever." And I built
Huh,
them that
yeah,
way. I think we've got 245 on Google now, and
which is amazing.
we've got
Dude, I love your van.
550. Oh, the moving truck.
Yeah, yeah.
That was one when I was in my 20s. The old Realtor magazine, I saw an ad in there from On the Move, and I thought to myself, I want one of those moving trucks. For me, like
Right,
I felt like if I can ever have a moving truck, then I'm legit. And I was finally able
right.
to, I got one in 2019. But here's a crazy story on that, and we'll shut this down. 2019, I decided to order a moving truck going into 2020. And I ordered it in November November. And it was expensive. It was like 60 grand. It's a nice moving truck from On the Move. They're a company that they make moving trucks for realtors and self-storage places, but mainly real estate agents. Anyway, I ordered it in November and then COVID hit in January.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it was being built in New York and the whole state was shut down. So there was a delay. It showed up in April. And I remember standing in the parking lot when they delivered this moving truck, and I should have been excited. And instead, I was going, we may have to move into that truck. Because I'm like,
Right? Because
because
COVID
everything with
scared everyone.
COVID, everything shut down. And we were like,
Yeah,
this is going to be, I might end up moving into this truck. Like I might have to
very.
live in this thing. But
Isn't
luckily
it weird that
that
COVID
didn't
almost like
happen.
sped real estate up though? Like we've had the most insane market.
Yeah, it's wild.
Like it's so bizarre. I don't understand, but
Yeah, nobody
yeah,
would have
it's
thought that a pandemic would actually make the stock market and the housing market go bananas.
through the roof. It's ridiculous.
Listen,
Yeah,
man,
no one.
you've been great on here. You've given a ton of great information. Anyone getting into real estate at your age, you've proven nobody's got any excuses. That's why they hated me. When I started, I told you my nickname was Flash in the Pan Penny because they said you can never sustain this. You need to just calm down because they all looked. I basically exposed them for being losers. Like all these 30 and 40 and 50-year-old people in my office, and I'm in there with a smile on my face, getting my name up on the chalkboard. And because we had a sales board that was a chalkboard, and I'd go in there and I'd write WP on it. I'd use the second part of the W, turn it into a P. I had this special initial that I'd throw by my sales. And I remember September of '89, I had, which was my first full year, I had 9 sales on the board, and all the people in my office were looking at me like, who do you think you are? You're never, this is never going to work out for you long term. You can't keep up this energy. And I was just constantly fighting that negative energy, and I didn't even listen to it. I'm like, I don't even care, and I would just smile and be nice to them and just keep putting my name on that board. And that's all that I did. And you're going to do the same thing. You already are, man. And I think you're doing an amazing job.
I appreciate it. You've inspired me a lot. I appreciate you having me on. Seriously.
Oh, you're welcome, man. So anyway, here we have it, guys. Thanks for listening to Brendan today. This is another great episode of Building Stronger Agents podcast. Stick with us. We'll continue interviewing great guys and girls like Brendan. And if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please like our podcast and give us a review. That'll help us be seen more people, or by more people. So anyway, thanks, Brendan. We appreciate you being here, and you have a great day, man.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Building Stronger Agents podcast. If you like this episode, please give us a 5-star review and share our podcast with your friends.